Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is your York preview. I am your host George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by oddschecker's very own tipster Andy Holding as we look ahead to a week's racing at York, including the Dante on Thursday. We're recording this at 11:30 on Wednesday, so due to scheduling issues, i.e. Andy's wife's birthday, and we weren't able to record this on Tuesday, and so we're just going to preview Thursday's racing, and we'll do what we can on Friday as well. But Andy, most importantly, how was your day yesterday celebrating your wife's birthday?
It was very good, yeah. I'm going to have to say that because otherwise I could just turn around and say she caused a whole pile of disruption to oddschecker's schedule, which I don't think will go down really well. I'll get probably a clip round the ear, but yeah, it was nice. Yeah, it was a nice day. We had played ball. We had a nice sort of trip along the river at Shrewsbury on one of the boats there. So it was nice, yeah. Yeah, it was good
stuff.
Yeah, I think she was happy. It kept her sweet for a day anyway, at least.
That's good. She looking forward to the racing at York this week?
Not a bit of it now. She doesn't even know what's going on.
How about you?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most exciting meetings of the season. It certainly sets up what's likely to take part for majority of the season in each category. Obviously, we've got the Dante, we've got the Musidora, which is today as we speak, and then we've got some good older horse group races, plus the handicaps as well, which I always think lead nicely into sort of like Royal Ascot stuff. And the Marygate looks at Belter this year as well, which we're going to discuss as well. So the T-Rolls also get their way as the older horses. So yeah, it's good 3-day meeting.
And what are your general thoughts on York? You know, what are your kind of profile of horse you're looking for going into this week?
Well, I mean, York's probably one of the biggest specialist tracks, isn't it, George? I mean, you've got your Ascot horses, which you tend to look for time and time again on the straight track. And yeah, I mean, those handicaps, time and again, they go to horses that have been there before. It's a funny old course, York. I must admit, it's one of my, I won't say least favourite tracks, but I think my punting record there is a little bit all over the place. I haven't got what I would call a real feel for it with regards, like when Cheltenham comes up, that I know I'm going to win here, or I've got a good chance of winning. The odds are in my favour. Yeah. I think anything can happen at York. The draw's a bit funny on the straight track. It goes one way or the other from day to day, and you never really know where you want to be on the round track draw wise as well. I mean, the consensus is that, or the feeling is that maybe high numbers might have a little bit more of an advantage nowadays than the low numbers, but put it this way, my heart, if I back something anti-post, my heart would sink if I'm drawn 20 or 20. But that's just nature of the beast. So yeah, I wouldn't be going into this week thinking, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to come out of it in front. And if I don't come out in front, I'm not going to be sort of kicking myself, because it is a tough meeting.
Yeah, indeed. Well, as we say, we're recording this before the first race goes on Wednesday, so things might change or become more clear over the next couple of hours, but we'll do our best to preview Thursday's racing now. Starting with the 2:15, which is the Lindham York handicap over 5 furlongs, where we've got Clarendon House as the 7-1 favourite, ahead of JM Jungle at 8-1, Corker 8-1, Marine Wave 9-1, Spartan Arrow 10-1, Equilateral 11-1, Alligator Alley 12-1, 14-1 bar those. As ever with the oddschecker app and on the grids, you can see the best prices, the best bookie offers, free bets and place terms. Here, Skybet putting their neck out and going 7 places, even over 24 hours before the race itself. And of course, on the app, you can find Andy's tips straight to the app every single day, every morning ahead of racing. How do you see the first?
Yeah, these are the races, George, that really do strike the fear of God into me, I've got to be honest. 5 furlong races on the York straight track, as I mentioned, are really difficult with regards pace, bias, where you need to be, either high or low. So without sort of knowing that in advance, it's difficult to be dogmatic. But I think the standout piece of form, as far as I'm looking at it, is the race that was run here I think it was this meeting last year. I'm not sure it was this actual race, but it was won by Regional, who went on to, of course, Group 1 Glory, won the Haydock Park Sprint back in the autumn. And in second was Corker, and 5th was Clarendon House. Now, they ran totally separate, different races on that occasion. Clarendon House travelled really well in behind the bridle, up to halfway, kept on, finished 5th. Corker once again missed the break and flashed down to finish in never near his second. Very unlucky. went into everyone's notebook, and then on 2 subsequent starts back at York, he completely fluffed his lines. So he's a little bit of a difficult one to predict, Corker. But on his days, we've seen time and time again here on the Naismar, when he puts it all together, he's a very, very good horse. And you can never analyse a race that Corker's in without factoring in him into the equation. So Corker and Clarendon House, off that run behind Regional last year, I think have definitely got the best 2 pieces of form based on that. So I would go with either one of those 2, or probably both.
Yeah, so backing both there. So it would be 7-1 and 8-1, the 2. 7-1 is with William Hill, Bet Victor, Coral, Bowl Sports for Clarendon House. Paddy Pago 4-1 about Clarendon House there. And Corker 8-1, that's with William Hill, standout, best price on the grids, market price about 7-1. On to the 2:45 now, the second race on the card, the Hambledon Handicap over just shy of a mile. Metal Merchant is 11-2 favourite with Northern Express 8-1. Dutch Decoy 17-2. Blue for You is a sea of blue on oddschecker, still 9-1, just about clinging on there. 365 best price. Alma Beer 10-1. Point Linus 12-1. Look Back Smiling 14-1. Mursky, another one that's all blue, 14-1, 18-1 bar those. Andy, how do you see this? 20 runners as it stands. Again, Skyback going 7 places.
Yeah, this is a real who's who of York specialists. A lot of these horses have been not only on the Naismar time and time again, but they've also been in this race as well. The Northern Express was 3rd in it last year. Blue for You is a massive eye-catching 5th. I think he got drawn 20 of 20 last year. He hasn't come out of it too well in the ballot, 15, still 15 this year. But he's had a wind up in the off-season and there's money for him. So he's definitely capable, Blue for You. He's got some really big numbers on our sheet, all here at York. So I can certainly see why the market has got Northern Express and Blue for You, up towards the front end of the market. Conversely, Metal Merchant, who's the favourite, who won the Spring Cup the other day at Newbury, he hasn't run here at York. So that always casts a slight shadow. I don't mind taking a chance on something at double figure odds that they've not run around the track before. But when you're looking at 5-1, 11-2, you haven't got a great deal in your favour there, or a lot of scope. There's an interesting runner in this race called Mursky. He hasn't run here at York, so I'm putting a sort of asterisk next to his name as well. But he is available at sort of 14, 16-1. And I thought he ran a real eye-catching race in the Thurston Cup the other day. He wasn't knocked about. That was his first out in the season, first out of a New Connection since leaving Victoria Head over in France. And I think Connections have been delighted with that run, the way he finished off his race. He's got a nice draw. And if he takes the Naismar, then I think he can run a big race, because I think that Thurston Cup, certainly based on the figures, was a good race. Always is, and that often proves it's worth in a race like this. So I think the front end of the market, I'd be looking at Northern Express, Blue for You, but Mursky, if there's going to be a one that parachutes in from nowhere that hasn't got previous calls for him, it could well be him. And David Amir, obviously, does well in this race traditionally.
Yeah, Mursky 14-1 best price. That's with Bet365. Generally kind of 12-1 on the grids, 10-1 Sky Bet if you want all 7 places. Blue for You, as I say, 9-1 best price for 365. And Ladbrokes, Metal Merchant 11-2. That is with William Hill. On to the Middleton Fillies Stakes over a mile and 2 furlongs. The first Group 1 on the cards. The first graded race on the card on Thursday, where Free Wind is the 15-8 favourite ahead of Blue Stocking at 5-2. Sapphire Seas 4-1. Infinite Cosmos is 15-2. Nova 16-1, and Carnarvon is 20-1 here. So 6 runners as it stands. How do you see this, Andy?
Always been a big fan of Blue Stocking. I think we did quite a few podcasts together last year, didn't we, George? And this name popped up time and time again, because she was always in those big Saturday races like the Yorkshire Cup. I think she ran at Royal Ascot. I think she was either 2nd or 3rd in the Ribblesdale. She was definitely 2nd in the Irish Oaks behind Save the Last Dance. So her body of work in grade 1 level last season, or Group 1 level, was second to none. And she ran okay here on the Naismar in the Yorkshire Oaks, as I said, behind Warm Heart. I suppose that was her most underwhelming performance of the lot. So maybe really, sort of tight, good to firm ground to be a smidge of a concern. I just think she wants really nice ground. which they should get on the nose more. I think there's still one or two showers floating around. But all in all, I think other than her not having a run, I think she's probably got the strongest pieces of form, the strongest profile. And also as well, she comes from a team now in good form. I think when we did our last podcast together before the Guineas, I think I mentioned that Rafe Beckett was 0 from 20 going into that. And I tipped Funny Story in the first who finished second. And since then, I think he's had about half a dozen winners minimum. So the yards are now starting to flourish. So that's just about the perfect timing for Blue Stocking to get her season off and running, and a track that she's run not too badly in the past at Group 1 level. So I think it's hers for the taking, even though she's second favourite.
5-2. So would you have a favourite ahead of Freewind?
I think overall, because I know Freewind likes it here, and she beat Blue Stocking, or was ahead of Blue Stocking when they ran in the Yorkshire Oaks. But generally speaking, Blue Stocking is a bit more reliable, whereas Freewind, as you can see by her form figures, can chuck in a couple of stinkers from nowhere.
Yeah, indeed. Well, 5-2 as it stands. Interesting to see how the market moves there. Blue Stocking 5-2, with most firms on the oddschecker grids ahead of Freewind. Behind Freewind, who's 15-8 favourite with Bet Victor. We'll move on then to the Dante now, where Ancient Wisdom is the 11-8 favourite. Al Musmak is 4-1. Caviar Heights 5-1. Economics 10-1. Cambridge 14-1. God's Window 20-1. Warham's 25-1. The dreaded 7 runners. Although we should say, I think, given what happened with Hidden Law, for connections, if Ancient Wisdom can go ahead and win this and lay down a claim for the Derby, I think it would be some poetic justice there, Andy. But how do you see this?
Yeah, it was a real big shame, wasn't it? Hidden Law is no longer with us, because the time figure that he did that day on the Rudy last week was sensational. I think he would have been Derby favourite off the back of that. But Godolphin have got a really strong hand. They not only won the Guineas, they've got Ancient Wisdom, and they've also got that other horse that won at Newmarket at Sandown the other day on one of the trials there. The name escapes me. So it looks as though Boys in Blue have got plenty of good cards to play in this year's Derby. That I think they probably have got the key to a lot of the form lines. And if he can translate that form when he won the Futurity to this race, he's probably on balance the one to beat. But it was quite soft or heavy ground that day, and he has got a bit of a round action, so he wouldn't want the ground probably too quick on his seasonal reappearance. And that would be the concern, I think, going forward to the Derby. He'd have to have a watered track, or some showers around on the first week in June to kind of help him on that degree going downhill. Would I take 11 away about him now, not knowing his fitness and he's kind of like where he is at the moment in his campaign? I doubt. I think he's definitely got the best he's got the best form at Group 1 level, but I think the horse that's got the best form this season is definitely Caviar Heights. He was absolutely brilliant the other day at Newmarket. I mean, he went through that listed race like he was like a proper tool. And again, the numbers that we got for him that day backed up that run the time before behind JRB. Now, JRB is the only one who's got beaten, ironically, at that Fielden Stakes. I had a good bet on him last week at chess. I thought he was a good thing that day. Got 3-1, 5-2. He's gone off 5-4 or something like that. He fluffed his lines. He got beat favourite to go on the day. I think the horse that beat him is a nice horse, Capulet. But since then, Caviar Heights has not only won, but lo and behold, Ambient Friendly won. The horse of James Fanshaw's that finished fourth in that race, and bookmakers completely missed him on Saturday. I don't know if you saw the Lingfield Derby trial and how the betting went, but he was back from 20s into 8-1, and he absolutely laughed at the opposition. So that form line, I still think he's one of the best middle distance 3-year-old pieces of form so far this season, although it's not a Group 1 level technically. But I do think there's Group 1 horses in there, and maybe Caviar Heights is one of them. And given how he won at Newmarket last time out in a stroll, he could be open to anything. The fact with him as well, he's already had 2 runs, so he's fit as anything. And connections are well within their rights to roll the dice again. Why not with an informed horse in a field where there's ifs and buts about 1 or 2? We know he can run a big time. We know he stays really well. And at 5-1, he's a big price. I also actually think God's Window is a big price, George. He's 20-1. But he finished second to Ancient Wisdom third, beg your pardon, in the Futurity. He was closing on the favourite as well that day. So there's not a lot between them. One's 11-8, one's 20-1. And since then, God's Window's won first time out. He completely fluffs the start at Chester for one reason or another. he kind of spied the gap up the inside. The stalls are on the outside of the track on the road. I have that minor quarter shoot. And he saw the big space to his left-hand side as he come out the stalls, dived towards it, missed it by about 7 or 8 lengths, he was a million at halfway. But he didn't lose any more ground on Capulet and JRB, and he kept on quite well. If he comes out the stalls on terms, then I think he's no 20-1 shot. So I would probably play Caviar Heights at 5s here and have a little bit of a small staver on God's Window at 20-1.
Yeah, Caviar Heights is 5-1 with Bet365. Betfred go 3 places here, and they are best price 20-1 God's Window. So if you can manage to snaffle a bit of that, then that would be one way to play this that I think Andy sounds fairly keen on.
I think it's quite significant, George. Before we get on, that it's not normally something that John Gosden or Thady Gosden would do. Running a horse like that 7 days after it's had a race in a trial. They obviously were unsatisfied with what happened there, so they probably thought, well, where do we stand? We didn't learn anything from Chester. He didn't really have a race because he was never really in it due to his own stupidity at the start. So they probably want another go with him to think, right, well, chuck him in the Dante. If he comes out, let's see what horse we've got. They come out of Chester not knowing, so they're like I say, they're well within their rights to have another crack with him.
Yeah, absolutely. God's Window 20-1. Yeah, as I say, 20-1 best price with Betfred, who are 3 places. There's a bit of 20-1 with 365, Paddy's, and a couple of others, but that's a quarter of the 2, given there are 7 runners. On to the 4:15, where we have the listed race over 5 furlongs, the Westow Stakes, where Big Evs is the 8-11 favourite, ahead of Killian at 9-2, Unbreak My Heart at 11-1. Mon Nasliev is 16-1 alongside Sommelier and Dark Vintage. And Sports Coach, again, 7 runners here, Andy.
Yeah, nasty one this, because Big Evs is such a huge standard bearer, and he's different gear to these. It's difficult to come up with a concrete argument for one of these beating him, because they're just not really in his class, if you're being absolutely honest. What you've got to hope for if you're a layer or you're a bookmaker or you're a value seeker with the others is that hoping that Big Evs is not the 3-year-old that he was a 2-year-old. And his only bad run came, don't forget, here over the course and distance in the what's the sprint race here last year? The older horse sprint. I can never remember its name. The Nunthorpe. That's the race. The Nunthorpe. Yeah. He finished. I think he finished 2 behind him that day. I think he finished 14th to 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
beat 8.5 lengths.
Yeah, I mean that's at the back of your mind, isn't it? Why did he run badly that day? And then he's gone on to win his last 2 races, including that really good race on Breeders' Cup night. So yeah, everything tells you that he should win, but there is something lurking at the back of your mind that would put me off anyway at 8-11. I suppose Killian's the only logical threat. He wasn't too far behind Big Evs when they last met. He ran respectably in the middle, the Gym Crack. So yeah, I'd maybe with the change of stable as well, he could improve from 2 to 3 now with Archie Watson. But he'd be the only one I'd offer up as a smidge of value to Big Evs. It's not really a race I'm that keen on. I know we got a 7-runner race in the race before, but I think you can have a punt there with 3 places. With this one, it makes little or no appeal to me, that one, I'm afraid.
Fair enough. Move on then to the novice race. Well, we've got basically a field of no runners. So there's a field of runners with no form in the book. So there's not much service, unless you've heard anything on the grapevine, Andy.
No, we'll move on. We'll move on to the last. Much more my cup of tea.
On to the last. We have the handicap that finishes off the card on Thursday. London City is the 9-4 favourite, ahead of Cool Legend at 9-2. Palace Green 15-2. Hamden 8-1. Whiskey Pete 8-1. Tokyo Bay 8-1. 12-1 bar those. 9 runners here, Andy. Bread and butter. Who's the value?
I think Whiskey Pete's probably the value. 8-1. Do like this horse. The fact that he's won at the track as well. I think he's the only one to ever run on the Naysmore out of this field. I think that's got to stand him in good stead. He comes from a yard absolutely loving these kind of 3-year-old handicaps. They often farm them. They did last year. He's been gelded in the off season as well, so that hopefully concentrates his mind if it was going to go wandering. So yeah, there's lots to like about him. I think the step up in triple really suit him, but he is up against obviously quite a few nice horses in the making. London City won well at Dundalk, clocked a good number that day. The horses that ran in behind him have franked the form subsequently. He could be easily a pattern class performer in a handicap. He might get a Royal Ascot off the back of this. And Tokyo Bay clocked a good time when he won at Ripon as well, albeit that was on soft to heavy ground. I always think those numbers early on the season when they're on soft to heavy ground, then they come onto good to firm ground. You need to take them a little bit of pinch of salt. So whether he's fully effective on this ground, I don't know. But Whiskey Pete, as I said, he's the one for me there at that price. I think 8-1 is not a bad shout for him.
Yeah, 8-1. That's for Bet365. Kind of 7-1, 15-2 elsewhere. The good news is we've got some very embryonic prices for Friday, so we can kick off in the opener, which is the Marygate over 5 furlongs, where Running Queen is the 4-1 favourite ahead of Amestris at 9-2. Seraphim Angel is 6-1. It Ain't 2, 6-1. Ruby's Prophet 8-1. Magic Mile 10-1, 12-1 bar those. Like the look of this race for you, Andy, because it's a few horses that have run once or twice, and you can tell us according to your speed figures if it aligns with the market.
Yeah, Sam and Andy have compiled the sort of flat times for me when I'm sort of looking at races like this. Certainly give me a massive help. They're really reliable as well. They have been over the years. So anything that they've got over a 70, I always think is worth having more than a second look at. There's quite a few qualifiers as well. Running Queen actually isn't a qualifier, so I'd probably knock her out on account of I think she's got to improve to win this, and at the price I'd bin her. The two I quite like here. It Ain't 2 and Miss Lamai. That It Ain't 2 who won at Newmarket early in the season. The form of her race has worked out incredibly well, as we saw last week with Seraphim Angel winning. Seraphim Angel went on to win the Lily Agnes last week at Chester. You could certainly make a case out for maybe Seraphim Angel finishing a bit closer because she was a bit free that day and didn't handle the dip, whereas Chester, she was much more switched on and well balanced. But who's to say that Hugo Palmer's filly won't improve as well? Just whether the draw still 16-16 ends up being in her favour or not, we won't know until we've seen the first 2 days of the meeting. But providing the near side rail isn't too disadvantageous, then she's definitely a player. But I do like that Miss Lamai. Now, like I said, when you're talking about numbers, she clocked a time that has only been bettered or equalled by several other horses so far this season. I love the way she stretched out when she won at Thirsk. Always dominated. Probably caught connections a little bit by surprise. I know the bloodstock agent who buys the horses for Chris Hurst, and he sort of went into the race thinking, well, we've got a nice one, but we don't know how good she is. Well, the answer is very much we have got a very good one after that run. And they're probably thinking of Royal Ascot. She'd obviously have to run well, go close to winning this to justify those lofty aspirations. But the numbers from Thirst suggest that she's easily up to this level. And she's 14-1, I believe. Is that right? Is that top price, 14-1?
Yeah, 14-1 with Paddy Power.
Yeah, yeah. We'd have to make her much shorter than that. You know, I wouldn't want to be laying her anything bigger than 7 or 8-1 myself. So yeah, she's the automatic choice on prices. When you've got a situation like this, when you've got a lot of unexposed horses, some have done good numbers, some not so good. I'd prefer to take a punt on something that has done something good, but the price is completely wrong in comparative to the number, and that definitely is the case with Miss Lamai.
Good stuff, Miss Lamai. Yeah, 14-1 best price, which as Andy suggests, a lot bigger than he would have her. And then It Ain't 2, 6-1 with the same firm as Paddy Power and the Betfair Sportsbook. On to the 245, the handicap here, where Botanical is the 130 favourite, ahead of Theory of Everything at 7-1, Majestic 8-1, Loyal Touch 9-1, Reach 10-1, 12-1 bar those. 16 in here, Andy. I'm guessing these are the first you've heard of the prices post final decks. Anything catch your eye?
Yeah, I thought that race was won by Liberty Lane. I think was it the Craven Meeting. I think that's quite strong form. Again, just based on the numbers that we've got, it looks a strong handicap. And I thought the Theory of Everything and Majestic ran really well in it. They finished 4th and 5th respectively, keeping on well from sort of mid-division onwards. And they come here sort of in a similar contest, or probably arguably just a slightly weaker one on paper. nicely drawn and ready to strut the stuff again. They've obviously had 2 runs apiece, so they're fitting well. They've both got form here at York, albeit not winning form. Theory of Everything finished 3rd of 5 last year here, beyond a nice horse called Taffrege. And Majestic ran quite well or has run quite well in those Premier handicaps. So the prices they are 10-1 and was it 10-1, 11-1 respectively, the two?
Yeah.
You could probably back those two each way, 5, 6 places, and I think you get at least one of them in the frame.
There we go. That's the way to play the second race on the card. On to the fillies listed race, just over a mile. Next up, on the 3:15, Devoted Queen is the 2-1 favourite ahead of True Scion at 4-1. Bel Archie is 13-2. Spiritual 8-1. Bright Thunder 8-1. 9-1. Bolsena. Zen Jubilee is 10-1. Glimpse 16-1. And Carolina Reaper 25-1. Andy.
Yeah, no massive strong view here. I suppose if you held a gun to me, and I'd go True Sian, based on that run behind Pretty Crystal in the Nell Gwyn. I don't think it was the strongest Nell Gwyn we've seen. Dan Sequence, who was a short price favourite, was slightly disappointed after saying the Guineas looked threatening for a bit, then didn't quite sort of go through with it. So it's sort of paper over the cracks for him a little bit, but I think there might be a little bit more to come from this filly, particularly over slightly further. So without sort of waffling on about too many horses in this race, she'd be the one I'd probably take here, True Sian. But very, very sort of flimsy approach to this race, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, True Sian 4-1 best price. That's with Paddy Power and the Betfair Sportsbook. Again, rattling through Friday's card here. Next up is the Yorkshire Cup, where Tower of London is the 7-4 favourite ahead of Vauban at 4-1. Hamish is 13-2. Giavoletto is 15-2. Gregory 9-1. Al Kareem is 10-1. And Nakib 22-1. 7 runners again, Andy. What are they doing to us?
I know, absolute murder.
Who is it that you think is the play for the Yorkshire Cup?
Yeah, I think Giavoletto's the play here. George at a big price. I think we're looking down about 8-1, aren't we, for this horse? I don't think he's got a huge amount to find, as the odds suggest here. I mean, Tower of London beating fair and square on the day over in Maidan, but you know there was only 3 lengths difference between them. And the good thing about Giavoletto is that he's the only course and distance winner in the field. He does love it here at York. He won this race last year, and he also ran really well behind Coltrane later on the year in the Lonsdale Cup. So 2 runs hit the track have resulted in a victory in a third against Coltrane, who's probably arguably the key sort of 2 mile around, isn't he, Andrew Balding's horse? Wherever Coltrane finishes in the race, I think you mark the form around, don't you? To be honest, in the last 2 or 3 seasons. So I think he's been overlooked here. Whereas, you know, 1 or 2 of the others we're in the dark with regards to Gregory, obviously his first run of the season. Hamish, I think the ground might be a little bit quick for him, arguably. Vauban, again, he's having his first run for 192 days. I think Tower of London is probably the right favourite, but there's no way Giavoletto can be 4 times the price based on his track form and, more importantly, that run over in Maidan.
Giavoletto 8-1 best price as it stands. That's with William Hill, the pick for Andy there in the Yorkshire Cup. 3 more races on the cards. We've got a 6-runner novice race now where they've all had at least a run, and lead artist is the 6-4 favourite. First Conquest, who won on debut, is 11-4. Under Siege 130. Dark Tornado 9-2. Mystical Maria 16-1, and Long Haired General 150-1. Who's run the best time in your book so far?
Yeah, very difficult to split quite a few of these. The numbers horses Under Siege, we'll get a look at that form, George, in the Dante, because the horse that beat it, Economics, is very strongly fancied to win or to go well in the Dante. I think he's been punted from double figure odds into around about 6-7-1 at time recorded. And he's a nice horse, Economics. We didn't get a chance to talk about him in great length in the Dante because I mentioned a few others, but he's got a lovely, big, strong stride about him. Scopy. And he looked really good there that day when he won at Newbury. But to be fair, the second horse chased him hard all the way to the line. And he wasn't knocked about either, Andrew Balding's horse, Under Siege. Obviously got First Conquest and lead artist. Nothing to split between them at Newmarket. I think it was a nose or a short end between them. So they're very difficult to split there. But I think with just natural improvement and providing economics flags the form up in the Dante, then Under Siege could be the one to be with at the prices.
Under Siege, 130, but keep an eye on the Dante for the franking of that form. And if you see it, then maybe take whatever is available there about Under Siege. No prices in the last 2 races on the card, Andy, because the handicaps haven't been priced up yet. But anything that's got an entry that you're keeping an eye on?
Rogue Enforcer in the last. He got a stink of a draw at Sandown 3 weeks ago. He looked a nice horse last season as a 2-year-old. He clocked some good times, particularly when he beat Tsunami Spirit at Catterick. I think he's a very sharp horse, but he got, like I say, he got posted out wide. I think he was the only 3-year-old against the older horses that day, so he was inconvenienced on several fronts. And he didn't run too badly under the circumstances, but this is more of a level playing field. Back against his own age group, he's had a run. He's better blessed with the drawn still 7 of 20, so he's right down the middle. I think we'll see more of the capabilities of Rogue Enforcer than we did at Sandown this time.
Lovely stuff, Rogue Enforcer in the last. Keep your eyes peeled for prices there. And that brings our whistle-stop tour of Thursday and Friday at York to a close. Thank you very much to Andy for taking the time out of his wife's birthday celebrations to join us and chat through.
She doesn't get 2 days, George.
It's just the one.
Yeah, just the one day. Yeah.
Okay.
Back to normality today.
Back to normality. But thank you very much as ever, Andy, for taking the time to chat to us. Hopefully you guys at home enjoy the racing this week at York. If you're looking forward to the golf as well, the PGA Championship, we recorded a preview yesterday with Niall Lyons, the oddschecker golf tipster, and Justin Ray from 21st Group. I would definitely recommend going to have a listen of that if you're going to be watching the golf. But whether it's the racing, the golf, or whatever else, then please do enjoy it. Andy, who are you backing at Valhalla?
I haven't seen the podcast, but I endeavour to do because the 2 guys are brilliant. I like Max Homer.
So does Niall.
Oh, does he? Right, okay, that's interesting. He's just coming to the boil. I watched him through the weekend. I only watched the last 2 rounds of Rory McIlroy's devastating performance. And he just did enough over the weekend to suggest to me that he's coming to the ball quite nicely. So yeah, I back Max Homer at 25s.
Do you know who led the field on Sunday for strokes gained tee to green?
No.
On Sunday?
No.
Not McIlroy. It was Victor Hovland, who I think is starting to come back to the boil, and he's been missed by the market. He's still kind of 45, 50 to 40 or 45 to 1. So we'll see.
How does he get on? How does he get on at this track he's playing?
He hasn't played it. So none of them have really played it because the last major, 2014 was the last time there was a major there, which is obviously Rory winning it. Brilliant stuff, Andy. Thank you very much for taking the time as ever. And you guys at home, please do ensure that you gamble responsibly as well. Cheers.